So we're going to go ahead and make that HUD now. And I'm still messing with my game that I've been creating called Cool Guy in a Silly Place. So we're going to start by making our HUD here. And first thing we need to do is create an actor. I'm going to call this Health. And we're going to make it so Kirito will die after he gets hit by a few things. And we can see how many times he's getting hit. So there's going to be a little bit of code on Kirito, a little bit of code on the health box, and we're going to need to make some attributes. So first thing we're going to do is go into the health actor we have here. I'm going to go under physics, do a little bit of house cleaning, fixed rotation, doesn't need to be movable. We don't really care if it's bouncy or not because nobody's really going to be colliding with it, so not a big deal there. The main thing that we need to start off with is whenever one of those things that the enemy's shooting hits Kirito, that he loses some health. Okay, so if we do that, I'm going to kind of collapse these as much as possible. Always a good idea to drop these into groups and get this into a smaller space if you can, just so it's easier to get into things. Right now what I want to do is say anytime that we get hit, we overlap or collide with a baddie projectile left or right. Now to make this easy, and there's a couple different ways we could do this. We could say, all right, instead of all, we're going to set this for any. And anytime an actor type projectile right or an actor type projectile left touches this guy, then we want something to happen to him. Okay? So one thing we're going to need to do is say what we want to have happen to him. And to do that, we'll probably need a number here to keep track of his health. So I'm just going to say Cool Guy Health. Okay, I'm going to start that off at 10. And we're going to say every time that he gets struck by these, we're going to change the attribute of Cool Guy Health. There we go. Change it to Cool Guy Health -1 because we're taking the current value for Cool Guy Health and we're just subtracting 1. Now, does that mean you can only do 1? Of course not. You can subtract 10, you can subtract 20 whenever a different projectile hits him. Maybe a boss hits him and he drops by half. You know, this is where you can kind of decide that right here. But whenever it hits him, it should drop. Now, to make sure that that change happens and we see it on the health, then we're going to have to make a game attribute. Okay? So here under attributes, we'll make another one. It's going to be an integer. And we're just going to call this one health. Okay? And then we'll go back to the actor. And we're going to constrain, as soon as everything decides to work, we're going to go to our cool guy and we're going to constrain the attribute. Let's see. There we go. Constrain the game health to what? Can anybody tell me? Anybody who's watching? 10. No? We're going to constrain the game attribute for health to the cool guy actor health. Okay, so anytime the cool guy health changes, the game health will change as well. Okay, so here's what it's going to look like. We're going to take this health right here, and we're going to constrain, or actually we're just going to show, we can have it display text. There we go. And we're going to have it display the game health. Okay, that'll work. I'm going to change it to green. Why not? Okay, so then we have to put the actor into the scene. And that looks like a good spot. Why not? Okay, I'll hit preview. And I can't read that at all right now. So maybe there's nothing showing up. Yeah, I can't read that at all. So let's go back. Yeah, I could have sworn I changed that to green, but I'll try it again. There we go. Okay. So if we jump up, you see how when he hits those little white projectiles, he does lose health. Okay. Now one thing that's going to be a little strange is that it goes off the screen. We don't want that to happen, right? So we got this thing keeping track of stuff, but it's not moving with us. Also, nothing's happening once we get below 0 or we hit 0. Let's go back and let me show you something about your scene. So once you go back here and you click on scene up at the top, you'll see attributes, but you also see layers. Okay? Right now, you only have a background layer. And as you guys make your HUD, I would almost suggest making your HUD last. Okay? If you can help it, make your HUD last. You may not be able to do that, but in this case, let me just put it on you. The reason for that is as you add actors in, it's going to go into your topmost layer. Okay? So what I mean by that, you can make more layers. See right here, I just hit plus, made a new layer. Sure, man. I'm going to call this HUD. Now what that means is anything I add into HUD is going to be underneath the background layer. Well, HUD needs to be on top. Okay? HUD needs to be on top because we need to see it. It shouldn't go behind things unless you really want it to. But the reason that the HUD, or the reason that our current setup, the health, is moving away from our player is because we have it as scrollable right now. It can scroll away. If you uncheck scrollable, then we can hit player, and now whenever he moves, that guy moves with us. Okay? He stays in the same spot where we put him, and we can use this now as a piece of our HUD. Okay? So we got that. Easy enough. Okay? What I want to do now, and this is pretty easy. I have a feeling a lot of you guys already know where I'm heading with this. But I want to make sure that the game stops whenever Cool Guy's health gets to 0. Okay? So I want to lock up his movement. I want to make sure that he can't do anything once he hits 0. Okay? We could do change scene to game over. We could do that. That's a possibility. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these and put them inside a rule. I'm going to create a rule that's a Boolean attribute that says alive. Okay? If alive is true, this attribute is true, then all of the stuff underneath of it can happen. Okay? If not, then we're not going to be able to move anymore. Okay? So we need another thing. We need to create a rule that, and also we could say, instead of making this attribute true, we could also say as long as, and we go up here to the rule we just made. Let's call this movement. Instead of saying alive true, where we're waiting for it to get down to 0 and evaluate, we could always say this as well. We don't even need alive. Now that I'm thinking about it. We could just use cool guy.
When player health equals 0.
There we go. Once it is less than or equal to 0, actually we need it greater than or equal to 1, it can do all these things. Otherwise it's going to stop. So let's give this a shot. So if you want your character to stay on screen, but you want to take control away from your player, this is the way you can do it. So we got him up in the air. I'm going to hope I can jump him up and get him hit one more time. And now I can't do anything with him. He's locked up. Completely locked up. Can't use him at all. Okay? So there's one way you could do it. You could change scenes as soon as it gets to 0. You could have this point, as long as it's above a 1, you otherwise could have a death animation right here, and it brings up another actor that's in your HUD that's invisible. Now you make it visible, and it says game over, would you like to restart? At that point they can click on it, or they can hit a key or anything like that to restart. But that's pretty much your HUD, and I think the main thing to keep in mind is when you're working in your layers, make sure your HUD's on top. Make sure it is not scrollable so it'll move with you. And that's pretty much it. Your game attributes need to be used so you can transmit that data from your actors to your game and to other actors. But for the most part, that's the basics of it. Okay?